As we begin this weekend gathering, we acknowledge that since our 50th anniversary conference in Chicago in 2019, we have lived through a time of great pain, loss, and isolation. Our faith tradition calls us to bring our laments to our loving God. As Job and Jeremiah lamented personal and community pain, and as Jesus lamented broken systems of government and religion, we too bravely bring our laments before God and pray that we might be filled with compassion and strength to become instruments of love and healing. Our response is,
loving God, heal us. Help us to be instruments of healing in our broken world.
For all those who have died from COVID-related illness, for those who have died alone, and those loved ones we have been unable to mourn with traditional rituals, we invite you to name out loud now those you wish to remember. We acknowledge the collective pain of these losses and pray.
Loving God, heal us. Help us to be instruments of healing in our broken world.
For the events, rituals, and gatherings we have missed during this pandemic time, the weddings, the funerals, the baptisms, the graduations, and the birthdays, the liturgies and the anniversaries and the dinners, and the spontaneous get-togethers with friends and family that bring light to our lives and sustain us. We mourn this loss and we pray.
Loving God, heal us. Help us to be instruments of healing in our broken world.
We mourn the continued pain and death resulting from racial injustice and inequity in this country, especially the deaths of unarmed Black Americans at the hands of police. We mourn the lives of Daunte Wright, Rayshard Brooks, Daniel Prude, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and all those victims whose names we will never hear. We firmly declare that Black lives matter as we pray.
Loving God, heal us. Help us to be instruments of healing in our broken world.
We mourn the corrosive effects of nativism and xenophobia in our country, including the pain inflicted on children and families at our southern border, and the violence perpetrated against Asian Americans during the pandemic. In recognition that we the people means all people, we pray.
Loving God, heal us and help us to be instruments of healing in our broken world.
We mourn the continued oppression of transgender people in our society and the world. We mourn the physical, psychological, religious, and legislative violence perpetrated against our trans and non-binary community. And we reaffirm our commitment to stand with them and our trans children as we pray.
Loving God, heal us. Help us to be instruments of healing in our broken world.
We mourn the continued acts of betrayal against LGBTQI people from our institutional church. We mourn the jobs lost by dedicated teachers, administrators, liturgists, and music ministers because they lived their lives with authenticity. We grieve the expulsions from church property, denials of ministry, and educational bans imposed on our community. In the face of harmful statements from bishops and the curia, we remain confident that the church is the people of God in all our exquisite diversity as we pray.
Loving God, heal us. Help us to be instruments of healing in our broken world.
We mourn all lives lost and communities torn apart because of religious-based conflict. On this 20th anniversary, we honor in a special way the lives lost and forever changed by the events of September 11th, 2001. We rededicate ourselves to working for greater understanding among faith traditions, with a profound belief that we can build that peaceable kingdom here in our world. We pray.
Loving God, heal us. Help us to be instruments of healing in our broken world.
We acknowledge these losses. We acknowledge these pains. And as we begin our weekend together, we open ourselves to the call of the Spirit to help us shape the world we want to live in as we pray.
Loving God, heal us and help us to be instruments of healing in our broken world.